Hey guys, so I have a topic that I would like to discuss that has completely affected my entire life. So, as you may or may not know, I have a little brother. His name is Sammy and he is 16 years old and he has special needs. Now, even from early tests during pregnancy, the doctors could tell that when he was born, something was going to be wrong, but they couldn't exactly diagnose what. Now, when he was born, March 1st, 2002, they were successfully able to diagnose a plethora of medical issues with him, including Goldenhar syndrome, which impacts the development of the jaw, lips, nose, and ear, as well as Duane syndrome, pulmonary hypertension, autism, deafness, as well as many, many others. Obviously, he's my brother, alright? I never cared about it, because so what, he's different. I still love him. He's my brother. I didn't think anything different about it. But everyone else in public seemed to. Now see, when me and my brother were both growing up, he needed oxygen from time to time just to make sure that his lungs were functioning properly and make sure he's getting enough oxygen to his brain. And we would just get these looks of pity and just disgust because he looks different. So what? Why? He's still a person. I didn't understand it at the time, and now, even at school, since my brother's deaf, he goes to Rocky Mountain Deaf School, and even there, he will get singled out and picked on and bullied because he is different. He's different than the rest of the kids. And administrators, all they do is just turn a blind eye and say, kids will be kids. But it's not the case. Now, growing up, my family wasn't necessarily below the poverty line. We are a middle-class family, but we have definitely had our ups and downs. Obviously, medical expenses are expensive regardless of who you are, but the first year of my brother's life almost entirely was spent in and out of hospitals just because of health issues. Now, this is going to rack up medical bills like crazy, so my parents had to look into two different types of programs. First one is DDRC, and the second one is Medicaid, both of which help pay for my brother's medical expenses, whether it be oxygen tanks, medicines, doctor's visits, anything like that, just to help us out financially, to let us still be able to live our lives. Obviously, in these recent past couple years, there have been many social revolutions, as one would call it, many social movements that have helped move along society, either socially or politically, or both. Groups like those are the Black Lives Matter movement and the LGBTQ movement. Now, obviously, this new power that these people have found needs to be harnessed, because if it works for other groups, it shows that people do have the power to make change. And I believe that people of special needs need change. When my brother was born, there wasn't much access and availability to these programs that help people with special needs or families with people of special needs, which is obviously very important. It's support. People need that support because their lives are completely different than most anyone else is going to experience. My parents personally had to do digging themselves, and any new parent with a special needs kid is going to spend all of their time trying to make sure that their kid's life is worth living. Like, mainly that's gonna mean a lot of time spent. So, jobs and kid is all that they're gonna be focused on, and any free time they have past that is gonna be spent on research trying to make their lives better. So there is no free time. You can't find these programs without doing a lot of digging. So, as of 2010, there were 54.3 million people as Medicaid recipients. That number has only risen, and at the end of 2017, there was about 74.5 million people as Medicaid recipients. Now, in that 7-year gap, we've had exponential growth, but Medicaid has only continued to get cut after cut because of each new administration that comes in. These administrations, they see medical care and Medicaid just as strains on the economy. They only see currency. They don't see the lives that these programs help. Now, as is widely known and mildly controversial, Big Pharma is this congregation of pharmaceutical companies that have essentially monopolized the ability to get important medications to people. There's only a few companies that make these specific drugs. They raise the prices as much as they want because they have complete and utter control over these prices because no one else can sell these things. Because of this high price, people are living paycheck to paycheck just trying to pay for medicine to keep life normal. Obviously, this poses a great threat because people are having to sell cars and furniture and any kind of technology, any valuables they have, simply to get pills. Living paycheck to paycheck, it's stressful and it's not truly living. All it is basic surviving if they can't afford to live. The American school system is obviously heavily outdated and needs to be updated. However, there have been recent funding cuts that has been made that impact the schools, but more importantly, the first programs that are always going to get cut are the fine arts programs and then the special education programs, where these kids are trying to just have a normal life as much as they can, but these things are getting cut, so they've been giving the bare minimum. And when they don't have anything, or they're obviously not treated the same, then they're going to stick out more from the crowd, especially in high school, where bullying is heavily prevalent. Because of these special education cuts, it completely contradicts the whole No Child Left Behind Act that was enacted in 2001. As I mentioned before, Medicaid does help pay for at-home care, but it also helps pay for at-school care, meaning that they pay for paraprofessionals to help assist the kids in class, as well as specialized transportation. But with Medicaid getting cut and schools' funding getting cut, the only thing that it falls on is the kids sandwiched in the middle. As is common knowledge, bullying runs rampant throughout schools everywhere, but even more so when it targets kids with special needs. Now, bullying in general, it has been shown to cause an increase in anxiety and depression. And not only that, but also a lower morale for students. Kids who get bullied are a lot more likely to drop out of high school, meaning that they're not going to get the education they need. What needs to change? Now, obviously, a lot of these solutions are going to apply to a plethora of other things. However, I am looking at it in specifically special education. Firstly, many new laws that are proposed that come to voters are written in legal speak, as in no normal person is going to be able to really understand what it's saying unless you have a law degree. And as far as I know, most people do not have a law degree, because all it ends up being is 500 pages of filler words to make sure that the public doesn't really know what's going on. So obviously, I believe there needs to be a change to that, as in there either needs to be a secondary document which shows the actual goals of what this law is proposing, or simply eliminate the legal speak in general, because that will help voters stay more informed into what they're voting for. About this transitions to my next piece, where I believe that voter participation is heavily important, because this is our nation, this is our home. But voter participation is heavily low because they don't feel it's important. Voters think they make up excuses as to why they don't want to vote. But voting is vital to a democracy, because we can't have the few speaking for the many. It doesn't make sense. A true democracy requires everyone to participate. Now, many countries already in the world have gone to having a very specific national holiday, like a voting day. That way no one has an excuse to not vote. Everyone gets the day off work, and you just vote, and it's done. On to Big Pharma. So obviously, I know that there are antitrust laws enacted as of now to help prevent monopolies from forming. However, these antitrust laws are heavily outdated and allow for major loopholes to be formed for these companies to exploit. A lot of the developed nations in the world have allowed for the importation of generic prescriptions, such as Canada. Now, these prescriptions are a lot cheaper than these name brand prescriptions. With these cheaper drugs coming in, it will hopefully force the domestic companies to lower their prices to allow equal competition. That way it isn't a battle of who has the cheapest drug, it's a battle of who do you pick. It's the power to choose is what we've been granted. Obviously, schools need increases in funding across the board. However, I do believe that special education should receive priority because it's every student's right to have a basic education and not to be robbed of it because of funding issues. Now, I know money isn't just going to pop up out of nowhere, and I don't necessarily believe that taxes should be raised. However, I do believe this money should come from the higher-ups in the districts, as in the superintendent and the board of directors. I know I'm only one person, and I can only do so much by myself. However, my purpose here was to make sure to get the word out of something that means a lot to me and I believe should be changed for the better of the world. So, thank you for watching and have a great day.